Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October Council meeting. I would like to invite Councillor Greg James to do our Welcome to Country.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe, my fellow councillors. Firstly, I pay my respects to our ancestors. I acknowledge our elders, both past, present and emerging. I would like to acknowledge the Eora nations and all its people whose land we meet on today. So on behalf of the Elders Council, the 16 family groups and the 8 respected tribes who proudly share in the status of traditional owners of this land, I say a very warm welcome to this wonderful land, country and waterways. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Eora peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 3, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website, along with the official minutes of this meeting. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9/2 of the Local Government Act 2020. The principles are listed in your agenda from item 1 to 9. Item 5, we have no apologies today. Item 6, do any councillors have a conflict of interest that needs to be declared today?
Yes, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I do have a conflict, which is for item 12.1, awarding of grants under the Heritage Conservation Grants Program. I'm a committee member of the Shepparton Albanian Society, which has a grant application up for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 7, confirmation of minutes of the previous meetings. Are any items in the minutes opposed? No. Would a council like to move the recommendation that is on page 7? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll move that the minutes of the 21st September 2021 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brophy. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Item 8, public question time. We have nil received. And item 9, deputations and petitions, we have nil received. Councillors, if you turn to page 8, item 10.1, the draft Universal Access and Inclusion Plan 2022 to 2026, there is a recommendation on page 8. Would a council like to move a motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the council, 1, endorse the draft Universal Access and Inclusion Plan, the UAIP, as attached to this report, and 2, support the release of the draft Universal Access and Inclusion Plan, UAIP, for public consultation for a period of 4 weeks, commencing on the 20th of October 2021 and concluding on the 19th of November 2021.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Spinks. Second that. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just these plans are very important. It is actually a statutory obligation that we produce a plan, but I think we've gone a bit further than that. So I'd like to congratulate staff and all the people who have had input into it. Access should be an overarching theme in all our council decision making. In terms of disability access, we know a few have been left behind by the NDIS, and I know council's working quite hard to try and ease that transition for whoever it impacts. And we are quite active in that space. So I see this draft as another step towards becoming a fully accessible city, which has tourism implications and obviously lifestyle implications. And I look forward to the community comments if this goes out for consultation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Just to follow on from Councillor Summers' points, I guess it's now going out to consultation. It has been widely consulted to create the draft. We've now put it all together and it's going out for final feedback and comments. It is talking about universal access and inclusion. So it is certainly disability, talking about disability, both visible and not visible, but it's also talking about the realities of barriers in ageing and the different ways that we experience our region. So it covers a very, very broad range of ways that we can access and can be included in our region. So it's certainly open to a wide, range of community members to provide feedback. So please don't think that you have to comment on one aspect or another. It's open in all directions to make sure that we are being inclusive and accessible. And I'm also very excited as it stands, the draft stands at the moment. It's quite an ambitious plan. As Councillor Summers said, it's working towards being that truly inclusive and accessible region. And if everyone's happy with what this plan and when it comes back, if we achieve all of these things in the next 4 years, that is going a long way to improving and making this accessible and inclusive. So I'm very excited to see the draft so far and looking forward to seeing what the comments are coming back to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll support the comments made by my fellow councillors. Of course, this draft action plan has outlined a raft of actions to ensure accessibility and inclusion and to ensure that these elements are embedded within council's policies and programs, and it covers all dimensions, whether it's social, whether it's built in natural environment or economic development or leadership. One point that I would like to make is that given that, and I do acknowledge that that this draft plan is informed by a wide range of consultation. However, given that in that initial survey, only 4% of the respondents were from Aboriginal background and 10% only were identified as people born overseas, I feel that there is a room for improvement in the next round of community consultation so that we just enhance the representation of these communities in the development of this plan. So I really encourage all the community to participate and have a say in finalizing the draft Universal Access and Inclusion Plan. And let us know if you feel that the draft action plan has addressed all the barriers to inclusion and accessibility, and if there are any gaps in the proposed action. So really looking forward to seeing all the consultation feedback. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Priestley?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I just want to make the point that in a good community, a good society, a good economy, people get to participate and contribute to their full potential. And this plan is very much about making that possible. It's good for the individuals concerned, but it's also good for the greater community because they get to benefit from that participation. So it's a really vital part of having a vibrant community, this element of accessibility, and it's at the heart of what councils do. There's been significant community input, and I congratulate all of those that have done it. And I also thank and congratulate the staff that have put it together. It's been a great start. So looking forward to the rest of the feedback as it comes in.
Thank you very much. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Just to sum it up, I think the other councillors have really spoken to it, and we're very much looking forward to the feedback that we received. One aspect which was highlighted a couple of months ago by certainly by Councillor Summer and myself was in regards to the universal access matching grant scheme that could possibly come and fall within line with that. To see commercial businesses adopt perhaps a matching scheme for funding in order to make accessibility into their premises much easier for those that require it. So very much looking forward to that report coming on board, but also the feedback from the public on this. So well done, everyone.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 16, item 11.1, financial plan for 2021 to 2031. There is a recommendation on page 16. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Priestley?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move a motion that, as per page 16 of the agenda, that the council adopt the financial plan 2021 to 2031 as attached to this report.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brophy?
I second that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Priestley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. The financial plan is a high-level roadmap outlining the responsibilities and opportunities for the organisation on a long-term scale, balancing today's needs and pressures against tomorrow's. It's difficult work. The plan is a key document when considering fairness between generations. The plan does not bind us to the projections, but is a tool for considering the implications of changes as they occur over time. The state government provide councils with guardrails for the financial plan, setting out the limits and on financial indicators. This plan meets all of those financial indicators. Specifically, this plan sets perhaps less aggressive targets for efficiencies than I would like. However, it is within the bounds of normal, and we have the capacity to adjust our strategy each year as we approach it. I am confident in that annual budget process, along with the existing operational meetings, providing sufficient opportunity to address these changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. This plan is a statutory plan that we need to roll out, and certainly rolling it out as we are. It's a 10-year plan, and just to put people into the picture who may not be aware of that, obviously council, our term is 4 years, this particular plan, and we're going to have a council plan for 4 years. This plan goes for 10 years. It doesn't really marry in. So there's a fair bit of estimations, guesstimations, and some calculated crystal ball reading as well from a councillor perspective. But I know that the staff there work really hard in getting the historical data and have a reasonably accurate projections on how things will plan out, because it is a plan. One of the key components of that is getting the fundamentals right. And the fundamentals, if you look at it, for instance, in our adopted budget for 21-22, that $38 out of every 100 that we spend as a council is on capital works, and $9 per 100 is on maintaining community assets and facilities. So there's nearly 50% of our particular budget going into that particular area. So along with the financial plan, you really need to make sure you've got your capital plan right, that you've got your borrowings right against that, you've got your liquidity ratio right against that as well, so that it all comes in together. One little aspect of it that if you change within the financial plan that's been put forward, for instance, this year we had a 0% rate increase, and that has an accumulated effect over, say, a 10-year period of a plan like this. So that if you strip out $1 million from the actual budget, then you've taken out $10 million over the following perhaps 10 years. So things have to sort of fall into balance to make sure that it all comes together. You do need a plan, a 10-year plan, but with one of these ones, it's going to be a rolling plan. So in 4 years' time, when a new set of council comes on board, you'll be re-looking at that again and moving it on. So it's pretty much a moving and rotating plan, but it's necessary and it's strategic and it's statutory, and well done.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak against the motion? Would any council wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I would just like to point out towards some of the strategic actions underpinning this financial plan, and it is really it just demonstrates that council is in the right direction when it comes to managing its financial sustainability. Some of the aspirations that are included while developing this plan includes basically to achieve an adjusted underlying operating surplus in the next 6 years to ensure ongoing financial sustainability. At the moment, we do not have it, but it is looking positive, as the target is to achieve it by next 6 years. Then another strategic aim is to ensure capital expenditure on asset renewal and upgrade projects is given a priority over capital expenditure, and to ensure that existing assets are properly maintained. And again, another strategic direction in the plan is about allocation of sufficient resources to reduce emissions wherever possible, and it is in line with Council's 2030 zero emissions target. And so these strategic actions and the fundamentals are there when this financial plan was developed, and it is very reassuring. One thing again I would say about the community consultation in development of this plan is that The community consultation was done and survey was released through our Greater Shepparton, Shaping Greater Shepparton website. However, the number of responses that were received, they were quite low, and it was, of course, we received only 44 responses out of, we're talking about a big population of 66,000 people. So it is, of course, less than satisfactory, and despite council's best efforts, the participation rate in these consultations are still considerably low. This really highlights an ongoing need for us to engage a larger section of the community during these sections. So I do not know the answer to this about the effective communication and consultation, but really I would have appreciated more responses to the survey, and so that we sort of, we can sort of understand what the broader community aspires us to do. So that's all on this plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other council wish to speak to the motion? Now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Now go to page 21, item 11.2, September 2021 monthly financial report. Would a council like to move a motion? Councillor Dobson? You're on mute, Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move that the council receive and note the September 2021 monthly financial report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Priestley. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. There's a couple of interesting things. The budget provided for an operating surplus of 18.17 million. And with an expended with revenue of nearly $162 million, and the budget also provided for capital works of $71.5 million. A couple of interesting things about this is, and I want to go straight to our investments. The council at the moment holds up $33 million of investments, and the primary objective of the investment decisions is the security of funds by managing exposures to risk. Consideration is given to non-fossil fuel aligned authorised deposit taking institutions subject to credit risk, investment parameters and returns. And this in fact goes to our climate emergency policies. Preference is given to ADIs, the authorised deposit taking institutions, that do not fund fossil fuel projects where the investment is compliant with the Standard & Poor's credit risk ratings of greater than A2, and the rate of investment is greater than or equal to or within 10 basis points of other investments available at the time. Now, as I say, currently we've got $33 million invested with an average interest rate of 0.38%. Out of that, we have $4 million invested in green term deposits, which is 12.2. All of our investments are rated at A1, which is extremely strong, to A2, which is satisfactory, except the GMCU. But the point that I want to make is this, that risk ratings and investment returns are improving on greens products as demand for such products increase. It is important that our investments decision support Council's 2030 zero carbon emissions target plan, and it is expected that a greater proportion of funds will be placed in green term deposits in the future. And I think if we can demonstrate as a council that by adhering to these plans, that the population, the community may well take a note of what the council is doing and possibly follow suit. It's very important, Mayor and councillors and those who are listening, that our climate emergency policy is in full swing with all the plans we've got to it. And we're going to back it up by doing such things as investing in green investments. Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe.
Much. Councillor Priestley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Just briefly, like many organisations, council continues to be impacted financially by COVID, but broadly we're continuing to operate in line with the revised budget. Some projects that were not completed last year and have carried across into this year, capital projects, they've brought with them the associated grants, and under the accounting standards, those grants can't be recognised until the projects are complete. And what we're seeing is those hitting the books now as those late last year projects are getting completed. So we're seeing that create an improvement in our position of around $3 million. Outside of this, council's broadly progressing in line with the budget.
Very much. Would any council wish to speak against the motion? Would any council wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Just very briefly, it certainly is in line with the adopted budget. And for those that don't know, the public who don't know, we are given briefings by those in the finance periodically as to how we're tracking. And every month, they're coming in and going through it all with us. And we really do scrutinise it with great diligence. We pull it apart. We find out, and they answer questions that we want to put and pose to them if we're not sure about things, but also we query things, particularly if it's not in line with how we're going with the budget. Can I just bring one bright note to the attention there is that, and this is how diligent that they do work in trying to find every cent for us, that they were able to claw back over $110,000 worth of historical fringe benefits tax that I thought that was just long lunches that businessmen used to sign off on, but good to see that the exercise was well worth the journey in trying to go through, find that money, and then reclaim it back for our ratepayers. So well done to the finance department in looking up every little cent that they can find.
Any council wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 23, item 11.3, the Audit and Risk Management Committee, unconfirmed minutes for the 11th of August 2021. Would a council like to move a motion? Councillor Dula.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I would like to move the motion that the council receive and note the confirmed minutes of the 11th August 2021 Audit and Risk Management Committee as attached to this report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Summer. Councillor Dula, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Very briefly, we know that audit and risk management committees, they have a very important role in the governance oversight of council. These meetings, they cover a range of topics, and various sections of these confirmed meeting minutes. They basically provide an insight into key governance areas and the discussions that we've had in council. So the current meeting minutes, the confirmed meeting minutes from August meeting, they include various sections. There's an update from the CEO on certain topical issues. And then there is an overview of discussions and questions that were asked during the committee meeting. The meeting minutes also indicate that there were 3 new high risks that were identified in council's risk management plan. And then looking at the insurance claims report from April to 30th June 2021, it gives us an idea of certain claims that have been filed. And it's very interesting to see that under this insurance claims report, it's indicated that vandalism continues to be the main contributor to council's property claims. And then it also talks about a storm that went through the municipality in June, and it caused over $16,000 worth of damage. So these are some sort of interesting bits of information that community can find from these meeting minutes following the principles of good governance and transparency. These confirmed meeting minutes are reported to council. So I would just like to say thanks to the committee for their very important and significant work and assisting council in the oversight of governance matters such as council's risk exposure or compliance or financial reporting and internal and external auditing, etc. So thanks very much. Thanks for the confirmed meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion? You're on mute, Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Abdullah. That was very comprehensive. I do enjoy reading these minutes. They do provide valuable insights into the organisation that councillors aren't often privy to. And I'd like to, as well, commend the committee for their diligence. And I'm pleased that these minutes came to us a lot sooner than the last ones. So I'm happy to support it.
Very good, thank you. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 26, item 11.4, contracts awarded under delegation for September 2021. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor James?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move the motion, move the recommendation 11.4, contracts awarded under delegation September 2021 on page 26 of our agenda.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sarley?
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Yes, just going through the recommendation that the council, there are four dot points to cover. The first dot point is a contract awarded under delegation, delegated authority by the CEO, and that's the construction of a drainage basin at Carabok Park. The second dot point is contract awarded under delegated authority by a director. And there are 5 contracts. These include the Merrigan Pool, upgrade of the intersection of Old Dookie Road and Lockwood Road, New Dookie Road and Wheeler Street. There's structure plans for 3 industrial estates and Cosgrove landfill cell 4, that's geotechnical inspections, and then Wellsford Street concept designs. The third dot point is contracts awarded under delegated authority by a manager. There are 3 of those contracts. They involve the Sand Precinct, the Healing Gardens, Playgrounds and Barbecue Shelters. The other 2 are for analysis and research for community infrastructure needs assessments at South Shepparton, Marupna and Tatura. And the last dot point, Mayor, is there are 9 requests for tenders advertised but not yet awarded. And I'm pleased to say that these tenders are evenly distributed across our regions. Thank you, Matt.
Very much. Councillor Sarley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. Just very briefly, Councillor James obviously covered just about all of them. But I just want to highlight a couple of intersection projects that are in there, which is the final design works for intersection upgrades of Lockwood Road and Old Dookie Road. This is the potential conversion of the roundabout to traffic lights behind SBCs. That's obviously to help facilitate better truck movements, and those that know the intersection, it's pretty tight. And obviously with some visibility issues there as well. And also the New Dookie Road and Wheeler Street design works. I just want to acknowledge the fact that there is obviously some detailed work that's going to go into potential of some more traffic lights in that space there. But I just want to make note that I would hope that we will get some specific detail around that, because I'm a little bit concerned about how many traffic lights we're starting to install around, Greater Shepparton, in particular Shepparton as well. So look forward to seeing that plan. Hopefully we can work through some other safety measures that avoid the initial install of traffic lights. So thank you.
Very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Dobson? You're on mute.
On page 29, there is a contract that is still awaiting confirmation of award, and it'll be of interest to the friends of the Botanic Gardens. And it talks about the construction of a shared path on Botanic Gardens Avenue and Riverview Drive. The works include drainage, asphalt path construction and associated furniture. This will be the drive that connects really the Shepparton to the Botanic Gardens and beyond. And it will start where the new bridge is over the Broken River, which is under construction. And that is indeed a mighty bridge. And it will allow people from both the central Shepparton, North Shepparton, and the south of Shepparton to go into the Botanic Gardens and enjoy what is a world-class display of Australian Indigenous plants. And I've got to take this opportunity to congratulate the Friends of the Botanic Gardens and also the advisory committee that's looking after it. It's such a wonderful area out there. And I believe that this shared path is a recognition that at long last, after about 11 years, the Botanic Gardens and beyond is becoming part of Shepparton in the main. It will attract visitors from not only all over Australia, but international visitors as well, as it's already been doing. And there's lots of work to be done out there. And it complements the town water supply that has just been installed, and there will be a hydration station installed out there at the same time over the next 2 weeks. So a big asset to our gardens, but also our walking paths. It's just a real connect up both to the north and the south of Shepparton, and of course over to Mooroopna. So I'll be really wanting this one to get through as soon as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to point out item 2191, which is a solar project for council buildings. I'm sure many of us remember we've been discussing putting solar on council buildings for many, many years now. And we've declared a climate emergency, which is basically asking the community to be wary of their emissions. So we're talking the talk and also walking the walk. So design, construction and commission of various size solar systems for the Tuturis Showgrounds, Arthur Dickman's Children's Centre, Nancy Vibert's Children's Centre, Rodney Neighbourhood Kindergarten and GVU 3A building. So I'm very pleased about that. I'm sure that's one of many further initiatives to come. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 31, item 11.5, instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, S5, and there's a recommendation on page 31. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation on page 31 as a motion. It's a long one. It has 4 points. I won't read all of them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Priestley. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very briefly, of course, delegation is an essential governance tool. It allows the CEO and council staff to make decisions on a day-to-day basis and run the organization basically. So the most important council delegation is to the CEO, who through this delegation further subdelegates the decision-making powers, functions, and roles to council staff, who then use these delegations in daily operations and service delivery to our community. It's a requirement of the Local Government Act for council to delegate the powers to the CEO. And this instrument of delegation is updated periodically. The last instrument of delegation was reconfirmed at the council meeting on 17 August 2021. So basically this motion is about the updated delegation instrument to the CEO. These updates are quite minor, and but this motion also resolves to revoke all the previous delegations. The instrument of delegation, it outlines a set of conditions and limitations that apply to this delegation. For instance, one of the conditions is of this delegation to the CEO is that the CEO cannot enter into a contract exceeding the value of $500,000 ex GST. There's also a condition that the CEO cannot approve or amend the council plan. The CEO cannot approve the budget, revised budget, or approve borrowing of money. So there's a whole range of conditions and limitations that apply to this instrument. It is an administrative requirement, albeit a critical one from the governance perspective. So I support this motion. Thanks.
Thank you Very much. Councillor Priestley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, Mayor O'Keefe, I guess to explain to people that are not in the sorts of organisations or not used to this, a delegation is really around what's the line in the sand between what's a decision for the board or the councillors and what's a decision for the CEO and the daily operation of the council. And if you've got that balance right, it means that decisions can move quickly and operational matters are resolved and important strategic issues come to council. This is a very detailed document. These documents have been around for a while. It's very mature and well thought out, and these changes are very minor.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 34, item 11.6, instrument of delegation to members of council staff. There's 6 and there's a recommendation also on page 34. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. This is a recommendation on page 34 that the council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by the legislation referred to in the attached instrument of delegation, resolves that there be delegated to the members of council staff holding, acting or in performing the duties of the offices or positions referred to in the attached instrument of delegation to members of council staff the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. The instrument comes into force immediately. The common seal of council is affixed. On the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to members of council staff be revoked, other than the chief executive officer, and the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed, and the powers set out in the instruments must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that may from time to time adopt.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to, yeah, sorry, Mary. Yeah, I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just briefly, Mayor O'Keefe, in many respects, the comments that were made in the previous motion refer to this motion as well, except it goes down, it delves deeper into the members of staff. The council itself is not in a position to exercise all the powers conferred upon it by resolution and requires others to act on its behalf. And there are certain limitations to those delegations and that they are not areas of policy, but they are areas of process. And so this, again, as Councillor Priestley stated in the previous motion, this is I guess this is the practical way of getting through policy and procedure. And that's what this motion does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sally, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. Very quickly, obviously it was covered previously with CEO delegation, and now Councillor Dobson's covered it very well for council staff. But to give the community a bit of an idea, if you ever keep an eye out on when we do contracts awarded under delegation, that'll give you an idea of what the CEO and staff can and can't do on the level of finance associated with that. So, yeah, it keeps an efficient and effective organisation going. So, all good.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we turn to page 37, item 11.7, the 2020-2021 annual report. There is also a recommendation on page 37. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Summer?
Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm not on mute. Thank you, Mayor. That the Council endorse the Greater Shepparton City Council Annual Report 2020-2021 for the year ended 30th of June 2021 as attached to this report, including the financial statements and performance statement as certified by the Auditor General.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sally?
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, the annual report is sort of a report card to the community. It's visually appealing, it's easy to read. It probably doesn't have as much reach as it's deserved. So if you get a copy, have a look, please, because there's a lot of work that's gone into it. So yeah, just have a look. And yeah, that's what we've done for the last year. And that is how we remain accountable and transparent. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Sali, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Look, obviously, Councillor Summer mentioned it is a really informative document that gives you, or gives obviously us and the community a lot of insight as to what's taken place over the past 12 months. There's a lot of detail around our economic output as a community, the many services we offer, and detail around council's employment level and the breakdown of that. And as well as performance reports, governance reports, financial reports, performance statements, as well as a general overview and some detail about councillors, executive staff can all be found within the annual report. Personally, I've always had a real interest in what takes place within our community, and even been involved from a council level the past 12 months. After going through the report, I still get blown away with the amount of services and things that fall within our council organisation. So a lot of information falls within the annual report. So I thank obviously the comms department within council for putting this together, and just to the community out there, if you would like a copy, jump online at council's website and you can view the annual report there. Otherwise, make contact with customer service and they can give you one. But obviously it's a lot of pages, so our priority is for you to read it online. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Would a councillor like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the Councillor Dula.
Thank you. Just quickly, I wanted to congratulate our whole team, the staff. As Councillor Sali has mentioned, the whole finance team worked on it, marketing and ARMC also played a significant role in developing the reports. It has inputs from all departments. It's a long process. It includes operational report, audited financial statements and performance reports. So it's been a very long process. And so just wanted to say thanks to our staff and everyone involved in preparing this annual report and completing this process. It is a statutory requirement to present the report to local government minister. So well done and congratulations.
Much. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 40, item 11.8, live streaming and publishing recording of council and delegated committee meetings policy. There is also a recommendation on page 40. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move the recommendation to a motion that the council adopt the revised live streaming and publishing recordings of council and delegated committee meetings policy as attached to this report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dobson. Thank you very much. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Just briefly, it's pretty meta to be talking about, live streaming policy while we're live streaming to you. So it's a fun little moment, but I think it's one of those, maybe you could even call it a silver lining that's come out of, the last couple of years, that this is being able to live stream our meetings from our various, living rooms and home offices is such a wonderful way that we can be even, more accessible to the community who want to actually put the time in to watch our meetings, which I congratulate anyone who sits through them with us. But it all, and being able to watch it in your own time, in your time that's convenient to you, is a real asset to the way that we can do what we need to do and the way that the community can follow along with us. So, of course, as with everything, it needs a policy to go with it. So this is very minor changes. I still think there's more work we can be doing in terms of closed captions and translations, and whether we need ASL interpretations. And there's different things that we can do more of, I think. It's an emerging technology. We had to adapt, and, we all still get stuck on mute and all the various things that go along with technology. But I think it speaks to transparency and accessibility, and the way that the community can interact with us, and the way that we can do our work in a way that's, transmitted out into the community as well. It goes both ways. And this policy covers most of those things. So I support it today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Always unmute. Thank you, Keith. This policy it could be stated this way, that the council is committed to improving accessibility and community participation in council meetings. I think that's an important issue these days, that the council or the community and we are the servants of the community at the end of the day, and whatever decisions we make, the community is entitled to know every one of them. It's anticipated that the live streaming of meetings and making recordings available on council's website will provide greater flexibility and convenient access for residents. And of course, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we have council meetings doesn't suit everybody. But with these sorts of policies, you can now download the full council meeting in your own time. And so, as it says here, it will allow the public to watch meetings in real time via the internet without the need to attend in person. And that's, again, very important. So it allows more people to have a look at the meetings. And I suppose it gives a good record as well, a good verbal record of what exactly transpired during a council meeting. So it's a bit of an update, and I fully support it.
Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Just a couple of things. This has been happening now for 5 years, so we're pretty used to the live streaming of it. Unfortunately, we haven't got the public there as well, so you can't get the best of both worlds, particularly in the last couple of years. So to revise this, to make sure that we fit in line, it's more about, I mean, it is live streaming and it's publishing, but it's more about policy and procedures and legalities, and they're trying to catch up with actually what's happening with contemporary meetings these days. And in the climate, not only for now, but into the future as well. If you have a look at all levels of government have now adopted, been forced to adopt new ways of technology of bringing their meetings to the public as well. And that's, across Australia, but also internationally with contributed by well-known organisations that do it, across international waters and that as well. So we're in a new world in terms of that. And we do have Facebook, and of course, and we have other social medias where we're being live streamed right at the moment. And when, just to let the public know, we don't actually get to see your comments as you're doing them live. So if your bin hasn't been collected, don't let us know now, because we can't do anything about that while we're live here. And there's a reason for that, because like any normal public meeting, you don't need to be disrupted during the meeting, but certainly afterwards we can certainly follow things up. Having said all that, we really miss the public. As new councillors, we haven't had the opportunity of having the public there as well as live streaming at the same time. So we are looking forward to seeing the public there in the gallery at some point in time. And I think the public would relish the opportunity to be there. They can see our nuances, our inferences, our tone and our mood even better than they can live stream. So, but I think this is just updating as we're going along and moving forward.
Thank you very much. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 44, item 12.1, awarding of grants under the Heritage Conservation Grants Program 2021 to 2022. There is also a recommendations on page 44 and page 45. Would the council like to move a motion?
Mayor O'Keefe, I'll just obviously mention my conflict of interest.
Thank you. So will you remove Councillor Starling? In the waiting room, he's gone. Would a council like to move a motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Yes, I'd like to move the motion on 12.1, awarding of grants under the Heritage Conservation Grants Program 2021-22 on page 44 of our agenda.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Summer.
And 45.
Sorry, page 44 and 45, yeah. Councillor Summer?
Yes, secondly.
Thank you very much. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. The recommendation that the council note the successful applicants of the Heritage Conservation Grants Program 2021-22 as outlined below. I won't read them all out, Mayor. But the applications for the grants were open from July to September this year. 22 applications were received in accordance with the Heritage Grants guidelines. And this is the first time a program has been undertaken independently by a council in regional Victoria, proving to be successful and resulting in an increase from previous years' budgets allocations. In 2018-19, it was $50,000. 2019-20, it had increased to $65,000, and to this year, this financial year, it was $80,000. Some of the objectives of the Heritage Grant included enhance and protect and conserve places and sites included in the Heritage Overlay in the Greater Shepparton Planning Scheme, provide financial and advisory assistance for the repair, maintenance and enhancement of heritage sites included in the Heritage Overlay that have a community benefit. The 22 applications were assessed against a number of assessment criteria, and these included significance of place, need for the workers, community benefit, and capacity of the applicant to fund works independently. So the panel agreed to 11 applications to be awarded a heritage grant, and they included 4 in Shepparton, 3 in Tatura, 2 in Murchison, 1 in Dookie and 1 in Maribna. So a good spread across our community. The scopes of work ranging from external painting, veranda repairs, weatherboard replacement, roof repairs, and there was some asbestos removal too as well. So congratulations to all the 11 recipients of the grants, and also thank you to the 11 unsuccessful applicants for applying, but make sure that you consider applying for next year. And just finally, Mayor, just thank you for the Heritage Advisory Committee for their work and their contribution, and also to Councillor Abdullah and Councillor Summer for their contribution to this committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Also like to congratulate the applicants, and I'd also like to congratulate the committee. They initially drove this grant initiative, which is amazing. They have a genuine passion for heritage, and that's resoundingly clear. They should be very proud of this, really. Certain key staff should also be congratulated. They've worked tirelessly within the heritage space, and that isn't always fun. The grants were introduced in 2012, and as Councillor James said, that had a huge uptake that just grows every round. As we know, Greater Shepparton has lost a lot of heritage over the years, especially compared to adjoining municipalities. And this is one way the council can facilitate the maintenance and renewal works that arguably wouldn't get done without the grant. It would just fall into rack and ruin. So council does acknowledge the restraints placed on owners with heritage overlays, and I see it as one way of being able to give back to the community in terms of the restraints that we've put on them. It's a lot of money, but we're really realising over time that it's creating a culture that actually appreciates and respects where we've come from, and moving forward we can teach our children about it, and it just creates a richer culture. So I'm all for these grants.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to basically I'll echo the points that were made by Councillor Summer and Councillor Greg James. Council's Heritage Advisory Committee must be congratulated in its far-sightedness in their advice to Council to establish this Heritage Grants Program. We have seen that over the years, the community has responded very positively to the program, and they have enthusiastically come on board with the purpose and the intended outcomes of the program. The program is certainly contributing towards the preservation and conservation of Greater Shepparton's cultural heritage. It provides assistance and financial support to the owners of heritage buildings in maintaining these buildings. And these heritage buildings are assets for the whole community, for the whole region, as they contribute to various aspects of Greater Shepparton's livability. such as cultural, social, and aesthetic charm of the built environment, to name a few. So it is great to see that 22 applications were made, and there's a recommendation or an approval for 11 applicants for grants. I would like to say congratulations to the successful applicants, and also to all of those who applied. Congratulations on taking this initiative. And also would like to say thanks to the grants panel that included one member from the Heritage Advisory Committee. Council's Heritage Advisor was also on the panel, and of course, one strategic planning officer from the Building, Planning and Compliance Department. So the panel has done an amazing job of considering and assessing all these 22 applications. Well, very well done. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Priestley.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. So I'm a kind of a 90%, 10% split here with other councillors. The 90% is I absolutely recognise the merit and the benefit of many of the applications that have been funded here, and the tremendous work of the committee and the value of preserving our heritage. However, ultimately, we're responsible for the distribution of public funds, and I feel like we haven't quite got the balance right yet in terms of the test, which goes to would these works have otherwise occurred. For me, there's still a couple of examples there that concern me around that, and there's two possible reasons for that. Simply, I don't understand enough about heritage, or ultimately that we haven't got the balance right. So I think next year when we see this report, what I'd like to see is something that extends a little more detail into demonstrating why these items aren't otherwise going to be funded, particularly in high value real estate locations, because it is a concern for me where we're using public funds. As I say, 90% of the value of it is undoubtable for me. The 10% is something that we can improve on next year.
Very much. Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Could we please let Councillor Saleh begin? Okay. Councillors, on page 51, item 12.2, the Greater Shepparton Affordable Housing Reference Group, amendment of membership organisations. There is also a recommendation on page 51. Would a councillor like to move the motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I would like to move the recommendation that the council adopt the revised Affordable Housing Reference Group Terms of Reference, October 2021, as attached to this report, to update the list of organisational members appointed to the reference group.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Summer. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. This council adopted this particular strategy in regards to affordable housing 18 months ago, and just over 12 months ago formed the terms of reference for this particular group. It's a terrific reference group, and it really brings in the stakeholders in regards to affordable housing in the region. Why this is before us today is really to amend some of the member organisations. And unfortunately, the Country Women's Association and St Vincent de Paul will no longer participate in that particular reference group, but their positions have been taken up, if we pass this, by the Salvation Army and Vincent Care, who will fit into that well. They understand what's needed in affordable housing in Shepparton. They're certainly in that particular space, and it's more procedural to just to change the membership organisations today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Brophy covered it pretty well. I will say I was a bit surprised the Salvation Army wasn't included in the terms of reference originally, but I'm glad they are being included now. You know, the Salvos help a lot of people, and they helped me when I was sleeping rough many, many lifetimes ago, and I'm forever grateful to them. So we do have a very real housing crisis in Greater Shepparton and must proceed in ways that ensure future sustainability. We do not want to return to the days of commission areas that result in long-term negative social outcomes. And these terms of reference give me confidence that we have the networks and we have the understanding to strike the right balance. So I'm more than supportive.
very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 56, item 12.3, the COVID-19 Economic and Social Response Package, Stage 3. There is also a recommendation on page 56. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Priestley.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move the motion as per the recommendation on page 56 of the agenda, that Council endorse the COVID-19 Greater Shepparton Economic and Social Response Stage 3 package as attached to this report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brophy. Councillor Priestley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. As we all are well aware, COVID's been a really tough time, particularly for small businesses that are retail exposed, our restaurants, our cafes, etc. The council has done 2 previous rounds of COVID relief for those types of organisations, and this is our stage 3 economic and social response package. There's $600,000 in addition to the 1.5 million in stage 1 and the 2 million in stage 2. So council are really putting our money where our mouth is and trying our best to balance financial responsibility and the need for some compassion and understanding for people having a hard time. The package includes some really terrific measures, just to name a couple of them, and some of these measures are time bound, so check the details. I'm going through these in a summary way, so get to the form on the council website and check out the details. But a 50% reduction in fees on class 2 and 3 food businesses, a quick response deep clean grant program, shopfront improvement program, which is really going to go a long way. I think there's a great opportunity there for lifting the look and the feel of the CBD. The Business Support Officer program for COVID-19, which is already in operation. There's a 15% reduction in rent for commercial lease arrangement for council properties and facilities. And again, that's time bound. There's $20,000 to go to the great work of Shepparton Food Share to continue their relief work. There's a reduction in rent of 50% for our community lease agreements. All community asset committee run facilities will be reimbursed for 50% of their utility costs for a time bound period. All ground hire and building fees for council managed outdoor sports facilities will be reduced by 50%. And provide Foundation Shepparton Sports Stadium user groups with the off-peak rates instead of the normal peak rates. The development of a COVID-19 quick response community and social responsibility recovery grant. And there's $20,000 of that there broken up into $500 a lot for COVID safe training and all sorts of things like that. So that's just a bit of a flavour of it. There's some really terrific work, and well done to the council team for pulling this together, because it's, I think, really nuanced, and it's getting really good value out of that $600 and trying to stimulate and preserve those very important businesses for when we bounce out of all of this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Councillor Priestley was obviously reading my notes, so I haven't got much left, but that's all good because he summed it up very, very well. This particular response package is stage 3, as he alluded to. 18 months ago was the first stage, and then in June last year was the second stage, and all up it'll be over $3 million that we've put there. And it also indicates 72 tangible and targeted initiatives over that period of time. So that's really good, but it does hit our bottom line, but it is what the community's expectation is of us. It is what our expectation is of us in how we respond to this particular pandemic. We meet the challenges that this pandemic has thrown up to us, and it's in a measurable, meaningful, and a very productive fashion. So hats off to those at council in this particular area that work in it, being able to put this aside and to come up with these initiatives which are very targeted and hopefully help the community, particularly the not only the business community, but also the local community organisations as well.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Spins.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Only to say, very similar to Councillor Priestley's comments from before, it's a 90-10 split. Broadly, I'm very supportive of this plan, very locally relevant. It's important for our, community-wide response as the COVID pandemic just continued and we continued to be hit by it and having to recover from it. But the remaining 10% would be, while I understand we don't want to compete against or conflict with state supports that are coming out and various other supports, as always, I think that we could do more for our arts and live music sector. They were absolutely devastated through this recovery and haven't seen the same amount of supports as some other sectors. So I think that while maybe there are supports starting to emerge from different areas, why can't it be both, like hard and soft tacos? Let's, see if we can support from lots of different directions. So I would have liked to have seen more in there supporting our arts and our live music sectors, but I do hope that our supporting strategies, like our Creative City strategy and others, will pick up where this doesn't reach. But that's my only comment.
Thank you very much. Would the council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Sarley.
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. Yeah, look, obviously Councillor Priestley, Brophy and Spinks have obviously shared their thoughts on it as well. And obviously Councillor Priestley was very detailed around a couple of packages and the extra one now. But I just wanted to really highlight the work that the economic development team have been putting in. And I just want to individualise obviously a couple of people, Geraldine Christie, obviously, who's the director of that, and Anthony Nicolacci, who leads that team there as well. They're very engaged with the business community. I know that for a fact. They're on the ground listening and I guess trying to work out the best possible outcome for our community and the best value for money. So well done to those guys on engaging with businesses, because if you do that, you're bound to always get a positive outcome. So well done.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak against the motion? Would a council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor. There's some very good initiatives here, as was stated, particularly for small business, sporting groups, community. And it's pleasing that some of these initiatives actually came from councillors' suggestions. Shows a lot of engagement by certain councillors. However, there's only so much that council can do. These are very uncertain COVID times, and I'm sure we're looking forward to opening back up, however that might look in the coming months. But I really just want to say the most important thing we can do is encourage each other to shop locally. So I really want to urge everyone to support the local traders as much as possible, especially in and around Christmas. Shopping locally is arguably far more powerful in terms of responding to COVID than anything council could achieve alone. So hopefully that message can get out there and we can rally together just like we are famous for doing, and can really give those businesses the boost that they deserve. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Priestley, would you like your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe.
Thank you very much. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 60, item 12.4, extension to CBD complementary parking for Christmas trading period. There is also a recommendation on page 60. Would a council like to move a motion? Councillor Sarley.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move the recommendation as a motion on page 60 of the agenda, item 12.4, extension to CBD complementary parking for Christmas trading period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor James. Councillor Sarley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Look, most of our community would be aware of the complementary parking that is offered yearly within the Shepparton CBD during the month of December, which is obviously backed up by our parking strategy. What has taken place over previous years is an extension of the complementary car parking into the month of January. We now have a recommendation that was put forward to our council from the Parking Reference Committee, and I will also mention that our Mayor Kim O'Keefe and myself sit on that committee, which is a part of our council portfolio. The recommendation from the Parking Reference Committee to Council is to have the complimentary time car parking extended to the start of November 2021 and to finish at the end of February 2022. This will now provide 4 months of complimentary CBD parking in Shepparton. We heard it before that COVID recovery is in full swing. And with the release of stage 3 COVID response earlier in the previous agenda item, the timing of this is heavily based around the Vic COVID roadmap in getting people back into our CBD. I will highlight, because I can see councillors thinking that nothing is free. No doubt Councillor Dobson is thinking that himself. And they are correct, that this will come at an expense of approximately $214,000 on top of general operational costs. But this is an investment to get people back into our CBD. It will also provide a much better experience for our visitors and those locals that regularly use paid parking. So again, this will be complimentary time parking for council-owned car parks. There will be parking officers still monitoring the CBD to make sure you don't overstay the allocated time. I'd also like to see this as a bit of a joint commitment between local businesses, those in particular the Shepparton CBD, and obviously those around the paid parking area, that for obvious reasons, please don't take up the car parks out the front of your business. So we need it to be accessible. We need not only our locals, but there's going to be a lot of movement from people all around regional and the whole of Victoria State, that when they come here, they're going to have the accessible option of being able to get a park where they preferably want to, close to our CBD. We're not going to be charging them for those 4 months. Let's leave it free for them, because the reality is, to get business back, you need people back in the CBD. So we need to be open for them to do that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Look, firstly, can I thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Industry Parking Reference Group for proposing this recommendation. It is a time of need for the all-important Christmas shopping, and it's a very hectic time, of course, for everyone, including ourselves. But also the increase of visitors to our area too, as well, our town. With the opening, we'll have the opening of SAM. We'll have the new Move Museum is currently open. So there's an influx of tourism, and we're going to have a lot of returning students coming back to our towns from Melbourne as well. But it'll hopefully provide an economical increase to our businesses, not only CBD area, but right across our region too as well. Hopefully the COVID restrictions will be eased by then. This initiative will hopefully encourage shoppers to park in the CBD area without the worry or the stress of a parking infringement. Our main aim is try and get parkers, get people into the CBD area. So we want them in to encourage them to shop, not penalise them. So most councillors and would be aware that I was always, my campaigning for free parking. So I'll continue to support this wherever I can. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor James. And just a point of clarification that it is timed, just as Councillor Saley pointed out, so they will get an infringement if they go over time. So we need to make sure the community are well aware of that. Watch out for the signs with the timing limits on those signs. But complimentary parking, right on it with that one. Thank you, Councillor James. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. So I don't want to get into the provision of complimentary parking itself, but I do want to talk about whether it's appropriate for this one. I would argue that 4 months worth of complimentary parking is inconsistent with other council policies and directions that we're going in, trying to encourage, getting cars out of our CBD, more walking and cycling provision, and the public benefits that all flow on from that. We have plenty of free parking available. It's the difference between paying $1.50 for the convenience of ducking into a shop, or if you know that you're going to spend a couple of hours browsing and shopping and having lunch or coffee, then having to walk 50 metres down the road. It also, talking about the CBD, this is going to cost us, cost council $400,000 or so. It's, as we've just discussed and approved, over the last, couple of years, we've put $3.5 million in COVID recovery with another $600,000 just approved. The CBD is right now getting a brand new mall for $14 million, and we've just put $300,000 worth of fairy lights in. If you're going to argue that it's supporting the COVID recovery, then is where is the incentive across the region? I would argue this is very specific to supporting the CBD. And I'm not saying the CBD isn't worthy, but it certainly feels a little bit like the benefits that the CBD already provide aren't being highlighted in this conversation as well. So, and finally, the third point I want to make is that, that 400,000 that we could put in and that, we're going to spend in complementary parking. I think that's a very unimaginative way to spend that money. If we're comfortable spending $400,000, and this is just a rough number, but if we're comfortable spending that, if the aim is to benefit, to boost and support the local businesses, our local small businesses, why aren't we running, we're spending $400,000 on merchandise from these businesses and creating show bags to give away to, create local show bags? Or why aren't we, spend $20 and we'll give you a coffee? Or I think that there's no guarantee that complimentary parking will directly, turn into money spent in shops. And it's just going to create a lot of cars looking for spots, a lot of fines from people that don't realize that it is still timed and you can't just linger there. And I just think that this particular way of going about the COVID recovery is not the smartest way that we could do it. Thank you.
Very much. Any council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Spinks. You always put a different slant on things, and you always get us thinking. So well done, but also well done to Councillor Sali, who has put that forward as the recommendation. At this point in time, it's about COVID. It is about the Mal revitalisation, and it's about the traders who have taken a heck of a hit and will continue to while that revitalisation goes underway. So every trader, every customer and every member of the public at this point in time needs a good kick up, as in a good kick up to help them, help them in terms of free parking. I know Councillor Dobson would say it's not free, but from a promotional and a marketable point of view, it's free because they're not paying for it. We are, and they are probably, but they're not paying for it. So they see it as free. And of course, every trader needs to have the cash registers turning over. I would like to see, more people use the off-street initiative that we've got. I want to go down between November and February and not be able to find a park in the off-street one and not be able to find a park in the on-street one. That tells me things are ticking along pretty well and that the initiative is actually working. Yes, be mindful of the loading zones and the disability parking, because, you just can't just pop anywhere you want, and it is timed. Be very mindful of that. And yes, we are focusing very much on the centre of Shepparton, but please, when you're supporting the businesses post-pandemic, think of the other businesses too in Marupna, the outlying areas of Shepparton and Tatura as well. This is really important about parking in the centre, but there are other businesses that have struggled as well, and we need to support all businesses in Greater Shepparton. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak against the motion? Would any council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Dobson.
I'll speak for the motion with caution. And I was very delighted to hear Councillor Spink's well thought out comments. I thought she hit the nail right on the head. There is no such thing as free parking, because it's not the council that pays for the $400,000 or $300,000. It's the ratepayers of the municipality, and so the municipality is paying for the privilege of those people who want to park in the middle of Shepparton to do so. So I would put a challenge out to the traders in the centre of Shepparton. How about you match the generosity shown by the ratepayers of Greater Shepparton, if this gets through, by putting on special programs over this period, over the 4 months, to take advantage, to market to the fullest extent the largesse that's been shown upon the central business district of Shepparton. I'm not in favour of this being, I understand that the COVID-19 pandemic and the revitalisation is taking and will take money away from the central traders. And I would hope that this time next year, that the 3 months or the 4 months will not be required. We'll go back to 3 months. And I'd like to progress the ideas of Councillor Spinks on other more progressive ways of handing the money around. I will support this motion with reservation. There's nothing free with free parking. Somebody pays. So let's all hope that everybody in the community, that is both the consumers and the traders, take advantage of this trial period, and I hope their marketing goes well. And I hope the trade goes very well over the Christmas period. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to be a Scrooge who objects to free parking over Christmas. Sorry, Councillor Spinks. But I have always scratched my head about why we'd offer complimentary parking over the busiest time of year. My hope is that we treat this period as an extended trial so we can gather some measurable data to compare against the pre-COVID trends and not just rely on very subjective shopper surveys for our feedback. The question will be, does free parking really make a difference in where people choose to shop? We should be able to model some of those peaks and troughs and match it up against what's going on compared with having to pay. So we're a fast-growing municipality, as we know, and traffic congestion is becoming more of an issue, which I'm sure we've noticed during non-lockdown periods. If Victoria hits the 80% vaccination rate, which I think we're already there really, we'll be well and truly open for business during what's forecast to be an unprecedentedly busy Christmas and school holidays. So if there are significant issues with traffic management with free parking during that period in Shepparton, then I'd suggest we continue our parking strategy of incentivising off-street parking to reduce on-street congestion and increase the foot traffic. People in cars only buy drive-through hamburgers. They don't go through a drive-through boutique or buy a pair of shoes, or cars don't go to dancing lessons. We need to get out of the car and on our feet in front of the shop, impulse buys, loitering on corners, having conversations with each other. Cars don't do that. It's the community that does that. But anyway, all parking decisions should be about managing traffic. I don't think it should be about raising revenue. I know there's a cost to keep these car parks maintained, but fees and fines hit some people much harder than others. It's quite an inequitable system there. And so it's my hope that complimentary parking will mean more people have disposable dollars in their pocket. And I think that will go a long way over the coming years. There's lots of pros and pros and against, but on the balance, I think it's great if we can offer this. It gives us some data, it gives people an incentive perhaps, and it gives people more money that they can go and spend in the shop. $1 spent locally. Apparently it goes around the community 7 times. So share the wealth and we all benefit. So yes, all for it.
Thank you very much. Would any other councillor wish to speak for the motion? Just prior to going to your right of reply, Councillor Sally, I'll just comment. Our CBD retail stores, businesses across the whole Greater Shepparton have suffered, but we do understand what's happened in regard to the impact of COVID. And if we can get extra people coming back into our CBD, and if this is what it takes, let's do what we need to do. I mean, this is extraordinary to think that we're even discussing that we wouldn't give this opportunity to our businesses. And when you talk to the local businesses in regard to prior complimentary parking in December and January, they have had a significant increase, they believe, in regard to the complimentary parking in the past. But there's no time like now with what we've just experienced. So I think, they're on their knees extra all weekend to really encourage people back into our CBD. All right, Councillor Sally, would you like your right of reply?
Just very quickly, I'm sure I mentioned that it was free timed parking, but I've mentioned it again now. And I will just mention that obviously the Parking Reference Committee, Councillor Summer, receives a lot of data all year round about our parking. So that will form a big part of the debrief of the next 4 months that take place. So don't worry about that. And obviously, Councillor Spink's very, very valid points. It's hard to put a specific dollar on it, but the time-free parking effectively benefits everyone. And I think it's very hard in any sort of COVID support to really support everyone. So this one does give benefit to those visiting, locals, and supports professional services, our hospitality sector, and obviously retail as well. So it's a good spread.
Okay, now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Councillors, we now go to page 64, item 13.1, contract award, contract number 2134, supply delivery of quarry products. And there is also a recommendation on page 64. Would a council like to move a motion, please? Councillor Priestley.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'd like to move the motion as per the recommendation on page 64 of the agenda as printed.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dobson. Councillor Priestley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. So we're moving into a part of the agenda now, which is really about some fairly big purchases that council makes on a repeat basis. So we've got 4 agenda items where we're appointing panels of suppliers. So panels of suppliers will or have tendered their pricing, and those prices are then available for council officers to use in the completion of repairs and maintenance or whatever the relevant topic is. In this particular case, it's all about quarry products, and it's a substantial spend at $8.5 million on this particular topic, including GST, and all up for all of these categories. You're talking about close to $12 million worth of expenditure. On these large tenders, council has appointed a Probity Advisor. So just to talk about what a Probity Advisor is, that's someone who's a professional in procurement who doesn't work for council and makes a living by coming and having a look at the process and making sure that it has been run fairly and transparently, and everybody has got a fair go at what has gone on. So in this particular case, we've got a good number of local companies that have submitted tenders and been successful, and I congratulate them. I won't list them all now. And the comments that I make generally about the process apply for the next few agenda items. Thank you.
Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor Priestley has really covered it. The probity bit is very important, and of course we've got a team of people who go through this with a fine-tooth comb, and they look for the best value for council, and will continue to do so. And the third point is, of course, is that a lot of these suppliers are all local, so it's money, as Councillor Summers said before, for every dollar that goes around, perhaps 7 times. A lot of this money will go around too. So well done, and I agree with what Councillor Priestley has said.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 69, item 13.2, contract award, contract number 1999, provision of irrigation services, supply of materials, repairs and servicing of pumps and associated equipment, panel of suppliers. Would a council like to move the recommendation on page 69? Councillor Sarley.
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll move the recommendation as a motion on page 69 of the agenda, item 13.2.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Spinks. Councillor Sarley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor O'Keefe. Look, obviously, Councillor Priestley mentioned earlier that, clearly we've got a couple of these coming up in the agenda, and he gave a really good summary of what's involved with it. But this one here is related to irrigation services, and businesses have been added to the panel of suppliers. It's a 3-year contract with an option of 2 by 1 year extensions. It's worth $800,000, and these services are used across a number of our sporting grounds when upgrades and general repairs are required.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spink, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 74, item 13.3, contract award, panel of supplies, contract number 1997, purchase and supply of horticultural and arboricultural materials. There's also a recommendation on page 74. Would the council like to move the motion? Councillor James?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation 13.3, contract award, panel of suppliers, contract number 1997, purchase and supply of horticultural and arboricultural materials on page 74 of our agenda.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brophy. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. It's similar to what's already been mentioned as Robin, Councillor Priestley and Councillor Sarli mentioned in the other two previous awards, agenda items. I won't go through the recommendation one. It just lists the whole heap of the successful suppliers, and again, a lot of them are local. Number two of that is says, note that the contract term is for a period of 3 years with two options to extend for a further 1 year each. The estimated contract value over a 5-year period is $1 million in this particular contract. So the purpose of this contract is to replace an expired contract. Mayor O'Keefe, the materials are used predominantly for parks, sports and recreations and our other works within our council structure. The annual expenditure for the supply of these materials is approximately $200,000. This contract is for a period of 3 with 2 options plus 1, so estimated $1 million over 5 years. Council advertised for the panel of suppliers via tender search, Shep News and The Age newspaper, and we received 14 tender submissions. Following the evaluation, the panel recommended that all of the 14 tenderers be appointed in the supply of materials with a good balance of local suppliers. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, very briefly, Mayor O'Keefe. I think Councillor James summed that up really well. Look, the most pleasing thing of all of this, and looking across a number of these contracts which we're putting through at the moment individually, but sort of in a way collectively to put them through through council motions, you know, so pleasing to see so many local ones. I mean, you only have to drive around and you see going down the street, Byers Electrical or Adonato, Sand and Gravel, Preston's Turf and Garden, Tatura Lawn and Mowing and Gardens, and Cleves Earth Mowing. You see the trucks go past and the vans go past, and you know really well that, you know, these ones I've mentioned and many, many more that are included in there, that they're getting contracts for council because, you know, they were economical in their tendering. They're local people. The money is going to go around again and again, and it's putting people in jobs. It's putting the economy in a really good place in Greater Shepparton, and you know, it's a good feel all round. So well done to all those that have been awarded.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak against the motion? The council wish to speak to the motion. Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. It's interesting to note for those who are listening in that the councillors are well briefed by council officers on these issues, and in fact we have a document here which is a really a detailed report, and the tenderers have got to prove certain things. How well the tenderers demonstrated it will provide appropriate plant equipment, for example. Demonstrate evidence of capacity to supply. Does the tenderer demonstrate safe working systems? Does the tenderer demonstrate proper environmental concerns? All these sorts of things that they get weighted on per tender, and it's very interesting right across the board. And we have in terms of price, we see how much each tenderer has put in as their price, how it compares against other prices. so that not only does the council officers get a very clear picture of what the pricing structure is, but the councillors get one also. So we've taken this home and had a good look at it, and we get a very good understanding. So I wouldn't want anybody to think that, oh, well, they're just passing this very quickly. We have gone through this quite strongly, and I congratulate our staff and the probity officer for going to so much detail and giving us so much detail about the tenders that have been supplied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any council wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no issue with the tenders. I think that's great. In terms of the status quo, this is generally what we do. We appoint people who we choose off the list to do certain jobs. Personally, I'm not sure if this panel system goes far enough in terms of transparency, all the things we like to pride ourselves on. So we are getting some more information and having some more discussions further down the line. I'm just wondering if it would be more prudent to pass this after following those discussions, because this is locking in a 3-year contract. But if the majority are comfortable, that's fine. I just point that out as a on notice type of thing.
Any council wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Councillors, we now go to page 79, item 13.4, contract award, contract number 1998, provision of horticultural services, panel of suppliers. There is a recommendation also on page 79. Would the council like to move the motion, please? Councillor Sarli?
Thanks, Mary Keith. I'll move the recommendation as a motion on page 79 of the agenda, item 13.4.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor James. Councillor Sarli, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, we've obviously heard, a number of supportive comments of how important it is to, get our local businesses involved in these type of contracts and doing our work. And obviously a significant amount of money is going to be contributed over a number of years. But just like the previous 3 agenda items, this is aligned to horticultural services. It's worth $1.5 million with a contract length of 3 years with a 2-by-1 year option. Council will require these suppliers to provide works around landscaping and turf and garden maintenance. I might take this opportunity because I think this is our last item relating to the Infrastructure Directorate, and I might just thank Phil Hoare for the support he's given me over the past 12 months and the work that you've put in. We definitely didn't always agree on things, but I appreciate the phone calls you took after hours, more often than not on weekends, from me. I wish you well on your new adventure, and thanks for everything.
Hear, hear.
Thank you very much. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Keith. As Councillor Sarli said, and Councillor Dobson, is that it is the information that's presented to us is a fairly accurate guide, and we do go through this and look at it quite closely, and it's a good reflection on the stuff. And again, and I'm taking Councillor Summers' comments too as well. There's a lot of money which has been invested to a lot of our local traders over a period of locked into 3 years. So it is a very generous contract to pick up, and it's good to see that our local suppliers are invested in that too as well. So it's a two-way street, so to speak, where we help out and continue to support our local businesses. And in that, and as Councillor Dobson said, we do, and our officers do go through, and with the probity officer do go through. For an example, this particular contract here, there were 20 tender submissions, and following the evaluation of the panel, which consists of, council representative staff and specialists in that area, 2 of the tenders were deemed non-compliant because of the lack of their occupational health and safety documentary. So it just shows it's not just a process where we go through and tick and flick. So we've got to look at the responsibilities from our point of view, from a council point of view too as well. So there's a lot of responsibilities, and it's a two-way street. So But again, pleasing to see that there's a large number of local contractors that are involved and engaged into that process. So again, it's shoring up and giving local procurement in that process. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer?
Only for the same reasons I had during the last item, because it would be fairly hypocritical of me to support this one and not the last one.
Would any councillor wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Sarley, would you like your right of reply?
No, thank you.
We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Councillors, on page 84, there are some confidential management reports that you have with you in your secretary agenda. Item 15, documents for signing and sealing, there was nil received. Item 16, 16.1, notice of motion, amendment or rescission, there was nil received. Item 16.2, council activities. Item 16.2.1, councillor activities for September 2021. There is a recommendation there on page 85. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Dobson?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I'll move that the council receive and note the summary of the council's community interactions and informal meetings of councillors.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Priestley. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor O'Keefe. I think it was noted at our last council meeting that there's not a bigger range as what you'd normally have, mainly because we've been kept inside through COVID, and there's a lot of the meetings that we've planned and our diary has been altered all the time to on the basis that COVID's come back at us once again. So we do go to a lot of things, and Mayor O'Keefe, I'd just like to compliment you in this area where nobody would be busier than you around the municipality, and the number of things that you do, the number of meetings, Zoom or whatever that you attend, and I think it's testament to your good guardianship that we're in good hands at the moment. So I congratulate you on the job that you've done over the period, and I thought it was just appropriate time in this particular area where people can see where we've been over the last 4 weeks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dobson, for your lovely words. Much appreciated. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would a councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. Oh, did you wish to speak to that, Councillor Spinks?
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to say, as well as all of that list, I've been thinking about it, of all the things that are on this list this month, there would probably be just as many items that we all get to in our not councillor roles, just as community members, that I think are just as valuable. And while they aren't in a formal setting or formal role, it all helps to make sure that we're all connected across the community and making sure that we represent and we understand what's happening. I also want to make a special mention too that I was lucky enough to get along to was the 13th Dangala Kaala oration, and though we couldn't be there in person, it was still a wonderful event, and I'm so glad that it could still go ahead. The other one was the World Peace Day, lighting a candle for Afghanistan. That was a very powerful event, and really spoke to the strength and passion and love that comes from, the diversity of our communities and their needs as well. And I hope that over the next month, high vaccination rates, bit of sunshine, the Out in the Open Festival's got its 10th anniversary events happening. I hope that in the next month, there's all sorts of things we can get out to and keep attending individually and as a group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Over the page, councillors, item 16.3, council committee reports, nil received. Item 17, urgent business not included on the agenda, nil received.
Just before we close.
Yes, I was going to mention, Bill. Just Okay, go on. One of the councillors, Steve, you go first.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Keith. Yes, I'd also like to back up what Shane said about Phil Hall before, our Director of Infrastructure and City Engineer, resigning after 4 years of fantastic work here in Greater Shepparton. He's been a fantastic fellow to work with, and you can see the legacy of his work all around the place, in big buildings, little projects, bridges here and there. He's done a fantastic job to put in place a whole range of infrastructure. But he's also a fellow that is just exceptional in dealing with the public and sorting out any matter that needs to be resolved. So we say thank you, Phil, and wish you all the best where you're going, and we'll welcome you back here whenever you want to come back.
Thank you so much, Pete. And just on closing, I'd also like to acknowledge Phil's great effort with 6 new councillors. It's been a very, very busy start, and all of our directors have been so patient and available to all of us. So we're very grateful for that. But yeah, Phil, best wishes on your onward journey, and let's hope that in the future we do get you back here at council. I'd like to now declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.